Whoop.
It should be good now.
Hey everyone, for all those who are watching this recorded presentation of DSEU Ottawa's Solution Challenge presentation, and we have one participant with us, Yom. Um, to start off, let me introduce myself. My name is Manav Patel. I am the Solutions Challenge lead for University of Ottawa. And today I'm going to introduce you guys to the Solutions Challenge and talk about what the challenge is about and various other factors related to this challenge. Okay, so we're going to go through a brief introduction about the challenge. Then we're going to talk about prizes and the judging criteria, and a rough timeline, or can I say game plan, for how we are trying to prepare for this challenge. So to begin with the topic of this challenge, so Google basically has a community of student developers, and it reaches out to these student developers through a DSE chapter. Not every university, but most of the universities from around the world have been reached out by Google to set up a Google Developer Student Club. And this is the challenge where people from all around the world, students from all around the world, participate in this challenge where they have to find a solution using Google technology on any of the topics mentioned in under the 7 sustainable development goals of the United Nations. I will post a link in the chat, and also when we post this presentation, we will have a link attached to it that can take you to the United Nations site where you can take a look at all these development goals and decide which topic you want to select to provide a solution for and create your project. To talk about the prizes, the way this works is we have 2 months to work on our project, and at the end of March, which is March 31st, we need to submit a working, let's say, an application or like a proper presentation towards on the submission site. And then I think around in July or August, after they've finished reviewing all the projects that they receive, they decide the top 50 teams. And as you can see over here, that all these top 50 teams get mentorship from Google developers to improve their project, to make it better, to kind of get mentorship towards how this project can be deployed into the real world, or what direction should it take to achieve its goal. Other than that, they also give you some goodies like a branded t-shirt, and you'll also get a certificate so that's the second round. Out of the second round, the top 10 finalists are selected, and they get further mentorship again by Google developers to further improve their project. And this is the real deal, where you actually are kind of like building a brand around your project. You kind of have to make some sort of a commercial, and you have to basically pitch your idea. You have to show the workings of your prototype project. Could be a hardware, it could be software, it could be an app, it could be a web app, it could be anything. And after that, that round, they announce the top three winners. And here are some of the prizes for the finalists and the top three winners. As you can see, that out of the top 10 teams, the 7 teams that do not make it to top three receive a $1,000 prize per student. And the top 3 winners receive a cash prize of $3,000. And they also get to feature on Google Developers blog, which is a pretty cool thing. I will also show you what their blog looks like in a minute. So no, all of that does not happen within 2 months. So for the next 2 months, all that will happen is the teams will basically work on their projects. They will follow a certain sprint kit. A sprint is different phases of development that a software development team goes through to prepare the final product. In our case, it's going to be the final project to present for the first round. And then if you're selected as the top 50 teams, as one of the top 50 teams, then in the summer, which is somewhere around July, mid-June and beginning of July, where you'll get mentorship from these Google developers, and you will be working on making your product better. And by the end of August, you will be going through the top 10, which is the third round for the top 10 finalists. That is, if your product or project gets selected as one of the top 10 finalists, then you'll have your finale in August. And that's when they present the top 3 winners. And it's a big deal. They broadcast it live on YouTube. There's tons of people joining in from around the world, and you get to meet with some pretty big players from within Google. You get to talk to them. You get to network with them. You get mentorship from them. So it's a very good exposure. But no, it doesn't happen in 2 months. So the first 2 months is the building phase. And then when you get selected for the top 50, then you get selected for the top 10, and then it's the finale. So really it's starting, let's say today until August. So that's one good thing about this competition. It's not like your usual hackathon where you have 3 days and you're hungry, you're sleep deprived, and you don't know what's going on. It's definitely more how do you call it? It's very close to how a real software development team works. And the whole idea behind this competition is to give that experience to students around the world, and so that they can experience what it's like to be in a software team, and not just the technical aspects of it. There are various different aspects like communicating with your teammates, working together with people from different areas of the industry. You don't necessarily need to have everybody on your team from a tech background. You could also have someone from a business point of view. You could have someone from a marketing point of view. So it's really about the experience. We'll go to the judging criteria now. So out of a total of 100 points, this is the division. The first division is the impact in the sense that because this competition is based on United Nations 17 development goals, your project really has to show that the topic you chose is where your project is lying. Your project needs to have a very clear goal. So if you decide that if your topic is health and fitness, then your product really needs to show that you are solving a problem in your community related to health and fitness, or doesn't necessarily have to be your community, but for your users, whoever your target users are, you are solving that problem for them. So as you can see under the impact category for 60 points, you have first, which is, does the entry establish a clear challenge focused on one or more of the United Nations developmental goals? So as I mentioned earlier, so that's 10 points where they, judge you for how well are you tackling or aiding that goal. Second point is, um, how effectively does the solution address the challenge identified by the team? Again, very related to what I previously mentioned. The third one is there evidence of next step? What they really want to see is, are you only really building something for the sake of the competition, or do you really have a sight for the future? Like, do you really feel about making an impact towards one of those sustainable developmental goals? So if you say you're making an app for health, um, you need to be clear, or you need to have an idea about what is the next step. What, after you've achieved your first step, which is the product that you display in your presentation when you submit your solution, what's next? Like, do you have a plan? What if it fails, or what if it booms? So they want to see that, and they're actually quite serious about it, because it's very easy for them to judge whether your project is solely made for the purpose of this competition, or does it have actual value. The fourth step is there evidence that your solution or your product has been thoroughly tested with real users? Yes, they do want to see testimonies of some of your users. Could be your friends, it could be your colleagues, or somebody from your family, but they want it to be tested, just as in the real world. When any company is coming up with a product, they go through thorough testing. They take feedback from the users, and that's exactly what they want from us as well. So a good way to show this to them is to basically tell them a story, that you developed a prototype, you got it tested, and you took feedback from your test users. A good way to do that is use the medium of videos, take video testimonies from your test users. The fifth step is there evidence that the solution was iterated upon based on user feedback? Like I mentioned earlier, when you get your product to the testing phase, you need to consider your user's feedback. If the user says your product is not easy to use, or it could be easier to use, or if it gives wrong information, like it's not what you expected, that's one of the key notes that help you gain and that help you improve your product. And this is exactly how it happens in real development teams. And as I mentioned earlier, that's what the whole purpose of this competition is to give you that experience, is to let you know that this is how it is to actually develop a product or a software or an app or a web app, or it could be a hardware, it could be a robot, Coming back to the technical aspect of it, as you can see, it's 40 points, which is 40% of the total weightage. They're not too, which might tell you that they are not too keen on your technical implementation, which is again wrong. It's not that they're not too keen, but because they do want a properly working product. But at the same time, they're not asking you to look after the security aspects of it. For example, since most of this implementation is going to be done using Google technology, um, since that is mandated for this competition. There's not a lot of hard coding that you're going to have to use, but on the other hand, you're going to get the experience to work with a lot of the tools and services that Google has to offer. We will get to the services and tools offered by Google in a bit, but yeah, in a gist, they want to know. So, as in the first point, you can see, does the solution implement all the technical needed to solve the challenge? So, let's say you're creating a health app. Are you, you know, using all technical, are you covering all technical aspects of it? Because for a health app, you might need to check the heart rate of a person, maybe store that somewhere, collect records, um, train your data and do some analysis of it. So really, they're just trying to see how wholesome your product is. The second point is, has the team clearly explained what Google technology they used, why, and included guidance on how to run the code? This is a really important aspect of any kind of product development in the tech industry, which is what they're basically asking you to do is give them a thorough documentation. Um, it's really important for a development team to have proper documentation about what technology they're using and how to run that technology. Because if you don't, well, at least for the competition, if you don't have proper documentation, then whoever is reviewing your code base or your product or your application, if they don't know how to run it, they can't judge it. So if you don't follow this, it really cannot get to this aspect of it, because like they don't really know if you made an impact because they couldn't run your code. The third point is, does the video demonstration show the working solution and how a user will interact with the solution? Like I mentioned earlier, it's video testimonies. You need to get it tested by your target users. You need to record how the users will interact with your product, and this will give them an idea about how you've implemented your solution and um, how it works out with the users. Now, the fourth point is, has the team made effective product and technical decisions for their solution? This, this point is, in a way, a cumulative point for all other points on this page. Because if you don't make an effective product, your users are going to be unsatisfied, right? If you have not made the right technical decisions, you probably are not going to have a working solution. So if you've noticed, all of these points are quite interrelated, and that's what a real development team kind of goes through. As we're all mostly used to doing assignments in school, we have a clear agenda, we have clear objectives, but the more real you get with your projects, with your work environment, you start realizing that a lot of it is plain text, plain demands or plain needs. And as a developer, you need to break those needs and demands down into your developmental objectives and goals. And that's exactly what this competition is going to teach you. And that's exactly why I'm here as well. I'm here to help you guys, help the teams, everybody set up goals and objectives, help them with their implementations, and deliver a final solution. So I briefly talked about the timeline earlier. So this is a proper segmentation of how this process is going to go for the next 2 months. So first, if you're watching this, I'm assuming you're part of our university's DSE chapter. If you're not, please go join in the chapter so that you can stay up to date with all our upcoming workshops, all our meetings related to the solutions challenge. The next thing you want to do is you want to register for the solution challenge, and we will send the link for the form once we're done with the presentation. And you need to submit your form and you need to form a team. You can have a maximum of 4 team members in one team. As a university, we can have as many teams as we want. If you're part of one team, you cannot be a part of another team. So make sure you don't do that, because if you're part of 2 teams, it's they've made it very clear that they will disqualify you and your team. So you're really not just putting yourself at risk here, but both the teams. That is, if you are in 2 teams. The next step is to basically come up with a problem to tackle. So you select a United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, and you try to come up with a solution. This is pretty much, I'd say, a week's worth of time, doing all these things. You can easily join the U Ottawa chapter for DSC, fill the form, and get to the team formation point in about a day, and form a team. If you need help forming a team, please let us know. We are also going to have a separate Discord server set up for U Ottawa Solution Challenge teams, where you guys can interact with our learning and development leads and get guidance and mentorship from them, get technical assistance from them. So I'll come to that a bit later. But yeah, so formation of a team is the first step that you need to keep in mind right now. And once you've formed a team, the next step is the design and building phase. So we're gonna actually go through certain sprints and phases within the design and building phase. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try and identify the solution. For that, we've decided that we are actually going to go interview people, ask them a bunch of questions, and try to identify what a common problem is. And especially right now, this year is a good time to ask people about these questions, because we're just coming out of a very long pandemic, and there's crisis all around the world. And I think this is the time where people like us, like developers, can come in and play the bigger role, and trying to help our community out. We're going to focus mostly on our community. Another good idea is to take a look at some research papers from all around the world. Like a lot of universities out there, they have a lot of good research going on. I recently came across research about sharks from Stanford. So what these guys are really trying to do is they're trying to find hotspots for shark populations. I'm not going to go too much into detail of it, because it's a little out of course from our agenda for the evening. But yeah, just to give you a gist about it, it's the ideation phase. The solution phase is like the identifying process is really the main part. If you're able to identify a problem, and then if you come up with a solution for that, that's going to be that's going to score you more points, because that's where our entire judgment and reviewing process lies. Then we're going to go to the learn and build phase. That's where our learning and development leads come into play. That's where I come into play as well. Your teams are going to have to use various Google technologies and tools, and there's a lot of good tutorials out there offered by Google, and we're just going to have to learn as we build. So don't worry if you have zero experience. It's okay. We're all in this together, and we can help each other out to deliver our final solution. And then we're going to go to the testing phase, where we will take our product out to our target audience and we will get it tested. And we're going to take video testimonies of how our target audience is responding to our app. And of course, how our app or our product is responding to our target audience. And we will basically keep doing this until we find the right solution. That's how this entire process is going to go for the next 2 months. We'll be having a lot of workshops throughout the course of this. And if possible, we will also try to arrange in-person sessions where we can all meet everyone on our team, probably go out and get our product in the hands of our users and get some positive feedback. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the last step for this process is going to be taking a video or making a video presentation and submitting it. And then they're going to announce the top 50 solutions mid-April. And then in May, if you're selected in the top 50, you're basically going to get mentorship from Google developers. And then in June, they announce the top 10 finalists. And July is when they announce the top 3 winners. And yeah, that's basically how this competition spans out. So there's a bunch of overview videos. I'm going to be attaching a link to these. Google has really gone over the top to provide us with tutorials and help and guidance from the developers on their end to give us like a template for our building phase. And we're going to be following, we're going to try and follow those templates as close as possible. Some of the technologies that Google has to offer us and could be useful to us for our product are here. You can, if you're good with Android, you can stick to Android. Firebase is a platform that allows you to host or deploy your product. It could be a web app, it could be an app, really anything. They've also started providing with NoSQL database services. So it's a really convenient option to consider. I've worked a bit with Firebase. It's not that bad. We will be holding some workshops for Firebase as well. Build apps with Flutter. Flutter is Google's developed coding language, and they really have some amazing libraries over there that really won't, you won't have to go and code everything from scratch, especially for your user interface. It's really good, and the UI is really aesthetic, prettifies your entire application. They have TensorFlow for neural networks and computer vision. If you're trying to use anything from that area of the technology for your app, you shouldn't worry about it, because TensorFlow also has some really great libraries that can help you work on your data sets. If your solution requires development for a Google Assistant, they also have a good developer environment that can get you started on building apps for Google Assistants. And yeah, so these are some of the technologies. We will be holding workshops for some of these depending on the needs for our teams, because it feels like 2 months is a long time, but to really go through all the phases of development, we need to have a clear, concise goal. And that's why we won't be exploring all of these um, technologies and tools offered by Google, but only the ones that are required by our teams. So Google has actually curated a sprint kit. Now, for those who don't know what a sprint is, sprints are basically phases of development that a team goes through to come up with the final product. I believe I mentioned this earlier. So usually a sprint is about 2 weeks long, and there are certain agendas and goals that need to be completed within that sprint. And that's exactly how we are going to approach our solution. And like I said earlier, we're going to follow Google's template. So we're going to follow their design sprint kit to basically come up with a solution. And this is actually really helpful if you're taking SEG courses in our university as well. But there's a lot of courses out there that teach you a lot about Scrum and agile development, and this is exactly it. This is what software engineering teams around the world use to have a highly productive development team. And if you ever get an internship, or if you're already working somewhere as an intern or full-time person, you probably know that this that your programming skills are one thing, and to be able to sustain the pressures and deadlines of a sprint is another thing. So yes, this is if you're trying to experience what it's like to be in a real development team, I think this competition is a competition that can get you closest to what you experience in an internship. There are some tutorial videos, and like I said earlier, in our workshops, we will be um, um, exploring these tutorials and more um, as the teams require. These are some testimonies by past participants. You can really go to Google's GDSE blog, and they have videos from last year's competition participants and winners as well. So we have our learning and development leads. We have Kwok, we have Glenn, and we have Daniel. And we're gonna have our L&Ds on the Discord server. You can ping them. They'll be more than happy to help you. I'm here to help you throughout the process, and Chetan as well is more than happy to help you, as we really want to try and provide any assistance for the teams so that they can come up with a good solution. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us on Instagram. We will post our Instagram handle under this video, and we will also going to post a link to the form. That's a form only for us, for University of Ottawa's developer student club, to keep a record of the students interested in participating. That makes it easier for us to form teams, to hold ice-breaking sessions, to hold sprint sessions, just meetings. So we really hope that a lot of you are gonna turn up, fill the form, join the Discord server. It's a great opportunity, even if you're trying to get hired by Google, because you never know. If your solution is good, if you network with the mentors, maybe, who knows, you might land your next co-op or internship or a job if you're graduating with Google. So that's it. Thank you everyone for watching this video, joining us. See you soon.